All we do is read no matter what. I got a haul on my mind. It's coming up in a month. Hey friends, it's Chrissy. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. We here. Oh my goodness, we actually did this YouTube thing for like a month. Look at this. Actually having a lot of fun. Thank you so much for everyone who has been watching, who has watched, who did a like, who left a comment. Appreciate it so much. It's good to know we're enjoying the community together, reading books and enjoying the time, and I certainly appreciate it. It's just so much fun. Yay! My January wrap up for this month. Oh man, overall I had a really good reading month. I think that, you know, it's really easy, especially when you know the taste, your specific taste and what you like. But for January, I really wanted to read a couple of books that I got from my Christmas haul. Check that video out if you want to see the books I got over Christmas. So I wanted to read some of those. And I wanted to read more poetry. I wanted to read more self-published authors. And so that's kind of what my vibe was for the month of January. And as you know, I got my hand in that reading journal here because I just love it. It's just so good. Oh my God, it's so great. Let's talk stats. For the month of January, I read 8 books, which equal to 3,011 pages. I DNF'd 2 books, and all 8 books were on my physical shelf. Look at you, girl, starting off the year beating that goal. I just got 140 books left, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's still a lot of books that I've got to get to. But we can do it one book at a time, baby. And in addition to that, I read, see, I'm a YouTube professional. I knew I got my notes. My notes here. I got my notes. What in the world did I do with my notes? Oh, I got my notes. So, as far as my average ratings, I did not finish 2 books, or I DNF'd them. I gave 1 book 1 star, 4 books. No, sorry. Boy, numbers be. Read your notes, Christina. Reading is imperative for this exercise. Da 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 dum da dum da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 na 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 da 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 na 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 da 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 bum 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 bum. Out of the 10 books, 1 book that was a 1 star, 2 books that are rated 4 stars, and 6 books were 5 stars. Let's start with the DNFs and work our way up to the 5 stars. Let's do that. Let me say a prayer. Lord, just give me strength not to say nothing inappropriate, and because these books I'm about to talk about did take me to a place. Okay. If you saw my previous video about my 2021 superlatives, you would recognize this beautiful cover. Look, isn't it? Let's just take a moment for the colors, the font, the flower, and the bird, and I think these are hummingbirds. Isn't it beautiful? Child, that's the only thing that's good about this. I gotta get my notes before I stay on track, because I would just be out here ranting and nobody will understand. I would describe this book as a fever dream. That's how I would explain it. You have a fever dream. This is a fever dream. Okay, it takes you on a hot mess of just foolery, and for the sake of saying that it is a fantastical story. Essentially, the story is about a woman, Orquídea Divina. She has a ginormous family tree. She had 5 husbands, 4 of which have already died. She had about 3 children. So she has a lot of kids, and then she has grandchildren, and then they have children. So she has a lot of kids, and apparently she came from Ecuador and has some magic. Think of Jack and the Beanstalk magic beans she put in the ground. Think of that. She put some magic beans in the ground, and apparently her family has never had to worry about food or money or anything like that, because Grandma Arcadia always had a way out, and it wasn't JESUS, okay? It was definitely a lot of interesting scenarios surrounding Grandma Arcadia. So she decides one day that she wants to die, and she sends letters to all of her to the heirs of the family and tell them, I'm dying, come collect your inheritance. What I'm explaining is not a spoiler, by the way. And they show up and she's a tree. Her bottom half is a tree. But let's just stop it right there, because there's a difference between fantastical elements and foolery. Did you catch that? Fantasy in and of itself is a complete other world. You understand the boundaries of that world, how people maneuver, the politics. Everything is set up for you because it's outside of our normal world. Fantastical elements usually take fantasy pieces, so such as maybe it's set in our world, but people have superhuman strength, or they have some kind of a mystical element to them. Then you have this, which is just a hodgepodge of, I don't know. Now, I will say the author, Zordaia Cordova, her writing is absolutely beautiful. What I read, I DNF'd this book, let me look at my notes, 53%. And so I got halfway through the story and I didn't understand what was happening. I felt like, well, what are we doing? And so I found out a lot of other things that happened towards the end of the story, and I'm glad I jumped ship when I did. Her writing is absolutely beautiful. I would read something else from this author because I really enjoyed her writing and I could see what she was trying to do. But I think there was just a lot going on in this story that didn't make sense. It was all over the place. Too many characters. There were like cardboard cutouts of people, and I just couldn't get with it, along with a very heavy element of foolery that I just couldn't get with. And you know, people showing up and then ghosts showing up, people vomiting up sunflower seeds in the kitchen as grandma's turning into a tree that's drinking bourbon. Don't that sound ridiculous? It is ridiculous. I really enjoyed the author's writing, but this just was not for me. I don't know if people are really talking about this. I don't see nobody talking about it because low-key, I think everybody felt like they went through a fever dream. But we all had to take us a little Tylenol and drink some orange juice after reading this because we were totally sick. The next book I DNF'd was called American Royals. The story is about what if Washington, instead of becoming president, he decided to become king, and what our world will be like. Essentially, it will be just like, you know, the British royals running America. Honestly, this was just a curious read of mine. I really kind of enjoyed the snarky and low-key. I really wanted to have some more contemporary, bougie, snarky fiction like the experience I had with Crazy Rich Asians that I read last year, and so I totally enjoyed that series. So I kind of wanted to see if I could have that experience again, and unfortunately I didn't. I DNF'd it at about 42%, and I said, this just not for me. I found myself not caring. Everything was predictable, but predictability for me is not a bad thing. I just want to feel rooted in the story. But this, I just found like I don't care. It was like a watered down Gossip Girl. The 1-star read. DNFing is self-care. When you DNF a book and you don't finish it, it's okay, because every book is not meant for every reader. And the more you read, you begin to understand your reading taste, what you're looking for. You discover new things that you want to read. And that's all about the reading journey. And that's one of the things I absolutely enjoy about the reading cycle, which you'll find out later on. So stay tuned to the channel. I give a book 1 star. It's probably because I read it because I just needed to get through to the end to just make sure this is absolute foolery. At this point, if I'm giving a book a 1 star, I am thoroughly offended and mad, and I just need to really understand. That book is Local Woman Missing. And I'm just gonna read my notes that I have here because I think that sums it up. These are some quotes that I wrote. No quote given or written will be needed since this book is unquotable. I poo on this book. Local Woman Missing follows the girl that goes missing. There's a little girl that goes missing as well. Set as a thriller, we're supposed to find out who is this local woman that everyone knows about, just ups and disappears, okay? So it's a mystery thriller surrounded about these local women missing, and everyone thought this little girl disappeared, missing for 10 years, and then all of a sudden she shows back up again, and everyone's like, oh my God, where did you come from? If that didn't make no sense, welcome, because it didn't make no sense to me either. The first thing that I really did not appreciate about this story were the lack of sensitivity and trigger warnings including domestic abuse and violence, child neglect, and child abuse. From the publishing company to the author, no one thought to add an author's note, or neither did the author think to add some kind of recognition for those trigger warnings in her story. And even how the story moved, it was very insensitive to people who have those experiences. For me, I'm okay with a story being fringe and being, you know, on the outs of those things and having a very rough, having a very dark or grim aspect to the story. That is okay. But in a fiction story, especially set in our world, I just some things I think should be noted as, if it's mentioned in passing, that's one thing, like, you know, a certain event or a scene in a book that happens, okay, that's understandable. I'm not nitpicking on that level if there is no trigger warning in the story. But this actually was a thread that went through the entire story. I was offended that she used abuse and trauma on that level for shock value, and that's not cool. That is lazy writing. And so I had to keep reading because I had to verify that the writing was trite and redundant, and it read like, see Joe run, here she is, what do you do? I literally could just skip all the exposition and just read the interactions. And then it had this false sense of, okay, so it's a feminist thing and we should protect our bodies and wokeness, and along with the complete lack of sensitivity towards children and domestic abuse, you can just miss me with this book. Bye. Now that we got all the trash books out the way, now that we have cleared our palette, now that we have cleansed ourselves from the absolute foolery, let's get into the beautiful one. This is a 4-star read. Amanda Gorman's Call Us What We Carry, a Christmas gift from my parents, for I really enjoy poetry. I write poetry myself, and so getting back into poetry is just always a beautiful time. Amanda Gorman is the young lady who recited The Hill We Climb. Is it The Hill We Climb? I was right. What a beautiful collection of poems. She wrote this during the pandemic, and you can tell it is haunting, it is beautiful. One of the things I really enjoyed about reading her poetry is that this was actually an experience to read. I found myself reading it sideways or upside down, or because that was how a lot of the poems were. She had a lot of factual elements and historical footnotes to aid in her poems and in the perception and the emotion that she wanted to convey to the reader. I highly recommend, if you're looking for wonderful poetry, check it out. I read another collection of poems, World Made of Glass. I'm sorry, it's blowing out. Oh my goodness, let's see if I can do some YouTube magic. Much better. Okay, sort of better, not really. World Made of Glass by Anne Falcone-Shalasky. This is a local writer to the area where I live and my mentor, and she wrote a beautiful anthology of poems, beautiful collection of poems. She wrote this when I was actually a teenager, when I was younger, and so I decided to do a reread upon being quite a bit older now, and I understand her in such a way I didn't before, and it was so beautiful, poignant. And these poems follow her through her life as a teenager, in her adulthood, young adulthood, and now in the best season of her life, with the wisdom that she carries. And one of my favorite verses reads, from Under Gabled Windows, it reads, "Spring's not a sure thing," he says, "and seasons slip quietly. Make room for new growth." World Made of Glass. You should check it out. Support your local poets and authors and self-published work. It is important, and really their stuff hit way better. And I gave World Made of Glass 5 stars. And so what if I'm biased? I love her. Speaking of another 5-star read, The Prophetic Warrior by Emma Stark. This is a powerful book. As you can see, I annotated to the nth degree. This is a Christian nonfiction about understanding your role and moving in the gifts and moving in the prophetic gifts in the words of knowledge that God has given to you and to each of us. And to really understand that you are seen and that it's okay to be different, to stand out, because that is the point of living for Christ and for being one of His. And it is not a one person does it all. It is a complete body and everybody matters, and there's no gift that's more important than the other. And so being a prophetic warrior means really getting in there and not being afraid to say what needs to be said in love, and to pray in a way that will make change. And a lot of words sometimes don't really have as much impact, but those small things, bold few words that you can say, can change a life. That is being a prophetic warrior. One of the things I really enjoyed about this is that there are a lot of exercises in this. I actually have already started doing one of the exercises in this book. I don't have an exemption on it. It's for all of us. Read this book. It is incredibly powerful. 5 stars. It's looking to be almost my favorite book of the month. Maybe? I don't know. But it's one that's going to stay with me for all my great time. 5-star read. Death on the Nile by Miss Agatha Christie. I don't know why y'all acting like who is surprised? Where I actually did a read with me reading Agatha Christie. So if you want to see my silent response to Death on the Nile and have a productivity video to help you through your day and all the tasks and actually reading for an hour or two, check that video out. It's a good time. Death on the Nile. I mean, one of my favorite quotes from Mr. Peru was, "But then how do you know? Because I'm Hercule Poirot. I do not need to be told." What? That little arrogant man know what he talking. He done solved a lot of mysteries by this time, by the time he gets to this one. Death on the Nile is about a young woman who's come into a lot of money, and she gets married, and she and her new husband decide to take a cruise down the Nile River in Egypt, which I find so beautiful. Can we even do that? That would be a great cruise. But back in the 30s, child, they was doing everything. She goes on the cruise, comes to find out she's murdered. Oh! And Mr. Poirot happens to be on the boat, and well, you know, he gonna find out who did it. Woo! I'm gonna tell you, this was a whirlwind. Always reading Agatha Christie, it's just an experience. Of course, I will say this was written in the 30s. This book was written in the 30s, and so, like I've said before, it is a more tamed reading experience. The language in it is more snarky and dry versus the language and the structure that we read now, but that doesn't make it less fun and intriguing and just an all-out great time. And I'm gonna tell you, this was sitting at 4 stars, which for me, I like have an internal like star meter. If it's something outside of my comfort zone, I usually start it at a 3. It can go up, it can go down. But with Agatha Christie, she always starts at a 4. I don't care, I can be biased, you can too. But then them last 2 pages, honey. Agatha be knowing. This is a movie. I'm looking forward to giving you my thoughts between the book versus the movie. If you haven't checked out that video, check it out. That'll be linked in the cards as well. And this is the Book of the Month edition. I said I wasn't going to be one of those bookish people that had to have editions. Look at me becoming an edition snob. Did I have another edition? This cover is just beautiful. There are times when a cover does surprise you. History of Wild Places, I gave this 4-star by Shay Earnshaw, and this is a buddy read I did with my bestie, my book bestie. It started off, like I said, as a 3-star when I was reading it, and it started off kind of slow. If you recall, this was in one of my previous videos, and essentially it's about a guy who has an ability to find missing people, and he decides to take on a case until he ends up missing. And then you fast forward into this community where this community is cut off from the world. Theo, a member of this community, begins to find items of these 2 missing people, but there is something lingering out in the forest that keeps them from leaving. We go on a journey to find out who these 2 two missing people are and where they went. This was a great time. It started off slow for me in the beginning. I was like, I'm gonna finish it, but I really didn't know how I felt about it. But by the end, I just stuck it out because it wasn't bad. It was just, you know, I have my preference of things, and I can say reading outside your comfort zone can be challenging. So I really do enjoy these reads I have with my book bestie because it gets me out of reading the normal books that I normally read that I know I would give a 5-star to. I think this is characterized as a thriller or fantasy. I would describe this as more of a thriller versus a fantasy. There aren't really fantastical elements. There is an atmosphere, a mystery, and a lore to things that are happening. Very solid ending. So I give this 4 stars. It was fun. I'm gonna put my notebook down because I'm gonna need, and let's take a sip of coffee as well because we're gonna need to have our throat ready for the accolades that are to come. Robin Hobb. You're wondering, wow, Christina, I remember seeing this in a couple of your videos, you know. Y'all, I finished this whole series in January. I will link in the cards my review of this entire trilogy. So for my more detailed Hobb, sob, gushing moments, you can go check out that video. But I declared that this was gonna be the year of Brando Sando. It looking like that's not the case. It looking like it's gonna be Robin Hobb. You know, this complete series and The Realm of the Elderlings, it's going to give me something that I didn't know I missed or that I needed or that I found so enjoyable. Girl went into book hangover. I'm just now at the time of this recording, it's a couple days into February, and I've read a few books and I could tell I was in a bit of a book hangover. So reading slump, bad. Book hangover, good. But they both put you in a place where you're not doing any reading. Where was you at this month? Did you have a book hangover or reading slump? Let me know. The Farseer trilogy follows a young boy who is the illegitimate son of the king in waiting. The king in waiting abdicates the throne and he later dies, and the king, King Shrewd, decides to make Fitzchivalry a assassin. And so the series starts off with Fitz being 6 years old, and we follow him through his adulthood. But whew, this was just an amazing time. The next set of Robin Hobb books, we leave Fitzchivalry and we go to a different part of the world of the Sixth Duchy. Everyone is saying that it's supposed to be an amazing experience and that they love the Live Ship Trader series more than Farseer. And I was like, how is that possible? Stay tuned. We're here for it. We're just trying to be part of the community, right? Those are the books I read in January. If you have any reading goals, how are they going? I just want to encourage you to keep going. And if you didn't have any reading goals this year and you just started a reading goal, keep going. It'll be fun. Beware those beautiful covers and avoid that slump. The slump is real. The slump is real. Slump is real, y'all. I'll see y'all soon. Bye.